Welcome to Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, someone who'd love to wake up on a Saturday morning in 1995, Joshua Boswell, a nerdy board game enthusiast, former chef, which is pretty awesome, and current podcast noob who's here to talk not only about all his podcasting adventures from Toontastic Journeys to season, but also his CW crush on Eliza Taylor from The 100. Joshua, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Kendra. Very excited to be on Crushgasm for the first time ever, and super excited to talk about the CW and crushes, including mine's Eliza Taylor.
Well, before we get into all things crushable, can you tell people where they can find you and your shows online?
Absolutely. So you can find me online on both Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Toontastic Journeys. That is my podcast. We do every other Saturday, and we review animated TV shows and movies. On Fridays, you can also find me with the I Did Not Make These Rankings bracket review, Masturbators, as well as me guesting sometimes on Tuesdays during the I Did Not Make These Ranking Podcast Network drafts, and our show that is semi-regularly on Fridays, and that is Season to Season, where we review TV shows. And right now we're in the middle of watching Sons of Anarchy, and we'll be dropping that episode hopefully next Friday, but if not, the Friday after.
Awesome. So you're a podcast new, but look at how much you have going on already.
I know it's a lot, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, and you get to meet some really cool people along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I think the friends we make along the way, that's the real joy of podcasting.
Oh, most definitely.
Cue the Danny Tanner Full House music,
right?
So the CW has definitely been through a lot of changes since its beginnings, but being that you're a nerd, I'm sure you were already deep into it with all those superhero shows they had once upon a time.
Oh, absolutely. From day one, I was watching the Arrow. I watched every show in that universe, including the last one that's still on, Superman and Lois, which is going into its last season. Should be out sometime this summer, I'm hoping, maybe in the fall, I'm not sure, but very much so. Many of the CW shows I became a big fan of, and so I used to watch that channel all the time. Not so much lately though.
Yeah, they kind of had a dip. Once since the Arrows, I loved Arrow. Became obsessed with that show. But once they started just bringing people back from the dead, I hated Black Canary's chapped lips. I was like, that girl's chapstick. Yeah, I had to bow out, but I thought that was a great show. I was into the Vampire Diaries and the originals for a little bit.
Okay.
Things like that. But for you, is the superhero shows being on the CW, is that how you stumbled upon the 100, or were you already a fan of everything post-apocalyptic?
I am a big fan of sci-fi, and I happened to see the commercial, and it had a song that I'd never heard that ended up becoming one of my favorite songs, and that was Radioactive by drawing a blank. I don't remember the name of the band right now.
Imagine Dragons?
Imagine Dragons, that's the one. And the trailer, and I was like, oh, that seems really cool. And so I checked out the first episode, was like, this seems okay. And by the fifth episode, I was like, show's amazing. All the shows they do on the CW are amazing.
And when you sat down and watched the 100, were you immediately taken with Eliza Taylor, or did it take until that fifth episode when you were like, yeah, this is a show I'm not going to miss weekly, for your crush to kind of grow and develop?
I'll be honest, it took a minute. When I first started watching the show, she was somebody that I was like, okay, she's the main character. She's a little annoying though. And I was really crushing more on Lindsay Morgan's character, Raven. But as the show went on and things changed in the characters, the configurations and the allegiances and everything on that show changed so much, but in such a believable way that eventually I had eyes for only Eliza Taylor. I was like, oh man, that's my boo. Even when she messing up or doing something crazy, I was like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. But I still love you.
So you said she was like kind of annoying at first. So the attraction, was it because you liked like her character arc, or was it like more physical? Like what started to attract you to her?
Physically she's definitely attractive. But for me, it was really when her personality shifted. She started being a little bit more of a leader, but also kind of a bit more of a savage. She went through a phase where she was going by Juan Haida, and she kind of went native and became kind of savage to the point where, some people weren't really happy about some of the decisions she was making. But I like a powerful woman, and she was very powerful. And I was just like, yeah, she's willing to do what it takes to get things done, even if that means doing the things people aren't gonna like. And to me, I was like, okay, I dig that.
Did you? I was gonna ask you like that. She's kind of a badass on the show, but you already said so. But did you like that she was kind of brainy too? Because I know I was reading about her. She was like a medical student before she was sent down to Earth to see if it was inhabitable or whatever. So do you like the brainy side too?
Oh, very much so. I love intelligent people, and she is a very intelligent person on that show. And so that was another thing, just her mind and the way she could think, you know, a few steps ahead and understand people and be somewhat empathetic at times. And then on top of that, as she matured and went out of that phase where she was more of a savage, partly due to her taking on um, basically a foundling, but a young girl that she found, she kind of took under her wing and kind of became that girl's parent. And she kind of softened a little bit, and then that maternal part kicked in, and that really sealed the deal. Because I'm like, okay, not only are you badass, but you got some compassion, kindness now too.
She's well rounded.
Very
Eliza
much
played.
so.
So she plays the character of Clark Griffin. Do you think that? Do you have like other crushes that kind of mirror Clark Griffin? Like when you think back, like maybe this is a pattern in your fictional character crushes, like that badass brain, a little maternal.
I mean, most definitely. I grew up a big fan of sci-fi, so like Sarah Connor, definitely crushed on her a bit in Terminator 2, Ripley and Aliens and
Mm.
Aliens 2 and that whole series. I've always found that kind of smart, brainy, intelligent woman that's also a little badass, and is the one that's kind of the final girl and has to do the things to survive and get things done. I always found that kind of attractive.
And I know you guys did The Big Bang Theory on season to season. Can I assume Bernadette was your girl then? She kind of she ticks all the boxes.
Bernadette's great. I like Bernadette a lot. However, she's a little scary. Uh, she's a little too, I don't know, she could be kind of intimidating. As much as I liked her, honestly, I found Amy more appealing.
Oh, okay. Amy was freakier, I think.
Yeah, that might be a little bit of it. But also the thing I really appreciate about Amy is Amy was all about experiencing life. And so like there were times, because it's funny because she starts out like this mirror of Sheldon, but then she's so more willing to try new
Mhm,
things and do different things than Sheldon is. She wants all the experiences.
mhm. Yeah, I think the women definitely added a layer to that show that they desperately needed. I was so happy when Amy Fairfeld came on
Oh,
and then Bernadette.
absolutely.
And like Big Bang Theory lasted 12 seasons, but the 100 didn't do too bad. And like terms of like modern shows, 7 seasons is a lot nowadays. We're lucky to get 3 for good shows. So were you happy with like Eliza's character's like overall arc on the show? Because a lot of times I think like the writing on a show can dim a character over time. Like a crush will be like I think of Modern Family. Were you a fan of that show?
A little bit. I haven't seen every episode. I
Oh,
definitely enjoyed watching it, but it happened at a time where like I had a lot of different stuff going on, so I couldn't
mm,
watch it. Like back to back every episode. So it's one of those ones that's on my list to like rewatch. But now I have so many things I'm watching. I'm like, I'll get to it eventually.
I mean, like Big Bang, it lasts a long time. But like
Mhm.
on that show, I love the character Alex. She was just nerdy and the middle child. I really identified with her. But over the series, they kind of made her not so great towards the end. So I'm wondering, like, did you like Eliza's character the whole? Well, you didn't like her at first, but like once you started to like her, was it like, oh, I appreciate the arc they gave her in the writing?
Yeah, I really did. I really did. I felt like the show did a really good job of giving everybody their own arc and doing character growth, because that's one of my biggest things. If you can give me a show where you have good realistic character growth, even at the times where they take a character in a direction that I may not be the biggest fan of, as long as there's really good rationale for why they're going in that direction, I'll stick with it. And I felt like over the 7 seasons, as they evolved her character, and there were definitely times where I did not like her character, even later in the season. I was like, "You're still
Mm.
my girl, but I don't know what you're doing." But the way they ended it, and luckily enough, the 100 actually got a final season where they knew it was the final season. They wrapped up the storyline beautifully.
Hmm. That's
Probably one of
good.
the better finales I've seen of a show. Um, and the way they wrapped up her arc at the very end was so fitting for her character. I won't get too deep into it because if you haven't seen it and you're listening to this, I highly recommend you go find it, you go watch it. All the episodes are on Netflix to stream at the moment, and it is a good show that will keep you guessing, keep you wondering. They reinvent themselves several times in these really cool ways where you just don't see it coming. You're just like, oh wow, really? They're doing that? But yes, I do feel like they did not dumb her character down or do anything so detrimental that it made her character lose appeal to me.
Well, I'm glad it got a real final season. Nothing worse than investing time into a TV show and then it just ending out of nowhere. The
Oh
worst.
yeah, yeah. Firefly.
My biggest pet peeve with TV, I'm like, what? So like at least give us a few episodes. Like you can afford it, studios. Let's be real. Give us just like at least 4 episodes to end it right. That's
Right?
what if I was president, that would be like my first order. No TV show can end out of nowhere.
Oh yeah. I've said many a times if I ever was just rich and had billions of
Hmm.
dollars, I would start a network and just buy shows and
Yeah.
it ended and say, hey, you get a whole season to give
Oh
us
my
an ending.
god. Josh, I had the same idea. I was like, if I won the lottery, I would bring back like Last Man on Earth, like so many shows.
Right?
So, did she have a best season on the show? Like everything from her looks to her storylines were just on point out of the 7 seasons?
I would say my favorite season is definitely the second season. You know, where she embraces the character of Juan Haida, and she's, that's the season I like the most with her. Even though it's kind of the arc where she goes down this dark path. Because I really feel like she just really embraced what she felt at the time was her destiny. And that's definitely where I started taking notice. Like, man, she's looking cute, even though she's looking a little dingy and wild, like I'm digging it.
And when the show ended, and said adios to the CW lineup, were you like a little worried about like, oh, is this future? Or like, how am I going to see my girl again? You never know
Uh,
when a job will pop up.
it was interesting because I was a little bit like, oh, I wonder what else she's gonna do. But, at the same time, there was a lot of other shows to watch. And so she kind of took a back burner. Like, I still crush on her a lot, but there's other crushes I have too. But then, she popped up on a show I'm currently watching, Quantum Leap, the
Mhm.
remake of it. And I was like, oh man, she looks even better. She's matured, and the character she's playing on that show is really interesting. And it was just like, oh yeah, that's right. I used to crush on her a lot. And then it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. I'm glad to see you're doing good.
How would you compare her character on the 100 to her character on Quantum Leap? Do you like one over the other more, or is it just like she's hot? So I like both.
It's interesting because both characters are very smart. The character she's playing on Quantum Leap is a very smart, brainy scientist. And the character that she, played on the 100, as you mentioned, was very smart. She was a doctor and knew a lot about medical stuff. However, they're both very different. She's a lot more compassionate. She's not very much um, that kind of like savage, willing to do whatever it takes to get things done character. They bring a lot of compassion and empathy, but at the same time, she still has that adventurous spirit. She's not scared to get her hands a little dirty if need be. And what's really unique is you get to see her in several different aspects in the Quantum Leap. And so, in a way, it's sort of similar to the 100 because you got to see many different sides of her. So it's weird because they're very similar, but there's a little bit more of that warmth with her character on the Quantum Leap show. Plus, she's a little older, so you see a little bit more maturity as well.
And where would you rank the 100? And like, if you had like a top, CW show, is it in the top 5, just the top 10?
Good question. Let me do some math real quick.
Like Arrow.
It's definitely in my top 5. If I had to give it a ranking, it would probably be ranked number All Americans first, All American Homecoming second. Arrow, even though it has so many seasons that aren't that great, definitely is third. So I'd say it's 4 out of 5.
Not too bad. Rounding it out, Riverdale, maybe?
Oh, no. Rounding that out, I got to go with The Flash. And before all you Supernatural fans come after me, I love Supernatural. Don't get me wrong. It's up there. But it's going to be in my 5th spot just because I'm a superhero nerd first and foremost. And so The Flash and Arrow got to be up there before it.
Yeah, that Arrow was just like when it started, it was just such a great show. But again, those chapped lips, Black Canary. So for Eliza, does the crush like extend off screen? Because sometimes I always use this example. I love Michael C. Hall from Dexter, but I love Dexter. I don't like Michael C. Hall can like walk in my house and be like, eh. But Dexter, I'm like, that's who I love. So, like, do you like her outside of the screen, like the TV shows? Like, do you follow her maybe on social media, check out what she's doing?
Not really. I hate to be that person, but, my TV crushes, there's not many of them that I'm like, oh, man, I like this person so much. I just want to know everything about him and follow him. It's kind of more self-contained to the character or the show itself. I almost feel like there's an air of mystery when you don't dig into them too much because, you might find out something about them that you don't like and that changes how you feel about the character because you don't like the actor or actress. So usually I don't go too far off of the show where I'm following them on Twitter or TikTok or anything like that.
I understand that. It's like the same with, do you watch The Boys?
I do.
Like, I am in love with Homelander. And yes, I follow the actor because sometimes he'll post pictures where he has that Zach Morris blonde hair. But other than that, I'm like, he's a good looking guy. But when he's not Homelander, I'm like less into him, So it kind of takes away. But Homelander, that is my man right now.
Boy, speaking about that, though, there's the opposite thing. You ever had a character that you crushed on and you like the actor in real life, but then they play a role and it kind of makes you like look at them very differently?
Off the top of my head, I don't think so.
Gotcha. No, the reason it made me think of that is Zach Morris. I can't think of the name of the actor. Do you know what's the name of the guy?
Mark Paul Gosselaar.
Mark Paul Gosling. He plays a serial killer on a show I started watching recently.
Found?
Yes, I love that show. Like, I didn't think I would, but I watched the trailer. I was like, that sounds interesting. And then every episode, I'm just hooked. And he plays such a creep on that show. And I'm just like, I can't believe it's the same 2 characters. And he plays it so well that I'm just like, man.
So good on that.
He is.
I love that show. That show, like, has me and my husband hooked. But other than like the main girl and Zach Morris, the actors, they ain't doing great. But I'm so like, and you know the format of the show, you know how it's gonna end usually. But I'm
Right.
addicted. I'm like, oh, is this what it means to be old? Like my mom loves like those Criminal Minds, CSIs, can watch them all day, and I'm like, oh no, the age is starting because I'm like, I need to watch my true crime show. I
Right,
love it
right,
though. I love it. I'm so mad that it didn't get like a whole season.
right.
I was like, what the hell? This is how we're leaving it? He's out there somewhere.
I know, and it's just like I know the strike played a role, and I'm thankful
Yeah.
at least that it's getting that second season.
Hmm.
But I'm just like, really? There's no more? That's it? I gotta wait a whole year to find out what's going on?
And hopefully it's just a year. Because, God, if it's like Stranger Things, where I just saw Eleven celebrate her 20th birthday, like,
Right.
guys, no, Stranger Things. We've gone through like 17 presidents in the time that you started it ended. What
Right.
the?
I
Oh,
know. They're like, we're gonna be doing a time jump. I'm like, of course you're gonna be doing a time jump. They're grown-ups now.
I know, to what, their retirement, and Will is still being tormented by the upside down in the retirement home. Oh
With
my
the same
God.
haircut.
I know they need to, if the time jump, better include him not having the bowl cut. I feel so bad for that character.
I feel bad for the actor because he really fought to like, can I change my hair or show that he's grown? They're like, no, you have to have it. That's your character. That
Well,
bowl cut.
I mean, that was the time my older brother, my half brother, he's white, and in the 80s, he was born in 75, so he's definitely an 80s kid. And what my favorite school picture of his, he has on this like powder baby blue polo that has like a pink strap, like a pink accent, and he has that Will haircut. And I'm
Nice.
like that, and he was probably like Will's age. He's probably like eighth or ninth grade. So it's like they were being cool and maturing. Will, you
Well,
would have had that haircut.
oh yeah. Well, and if you grew up in the 80s or the early 90s,
Hmm.
I wasn't quite an 80s kid. I was born in 85, but I was in that right period where I got some of that late 80s, early 90s feel,
Hmm.
and we all rocked a embarrassing haircut at some point in time.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
I
my.
know. Oh, what were you gonna say?
I know. I was just gonna say. I know. There's like school pictures where I'm like burn them.
Right? I know there's a picture somewhere in a picture book that my mom or grandma has me with a rat tail, and I'm just like,
Oh.
what were you guys thinking? Don't show anybody that picture,
I
cause
know, child abuse. That's what it was.
right?
So, you don't really follow the actors too much. So we've reached a point in the show where we dig into our imagination. So I'm not going to ask you if you met the actress and hit it off. What would your lives be like? I'm going to ask you if you were in the world of the 100 and you were with Clark Griffin, things were like articulating, hit it off. What do you think your lives would be like in the 100 together in that
Oh,
realm?
it would have been passionate. We'd have had a whirlwind romance, and it would have been really nice for the short time it lasted because I probably would have died pretty soon after. It's just that kind of brutal road, and unfortunately, most of the men in her life did not make it very far. Matter of fact, the very first love she had, she ended up killing. So,
Oh,
yeah.
no, not. Well, you would add a good short romance, which is fine. You know, it's not about the length; it's about how much time. It's about the the quality of it, not
Oh, yeah, it would have
the
burned
time.
bright. Yeah, but bright.
That's like if somebody came with a Walking Dead crush, like, what do you think your life would be like? Well, Walking Dead world. What do you think? I would have got bit and died. That would have been me.
Right?
But once we've talked, so now that we talked about the crush, it's time to dig more into what you have going on. And we're going to start with Toontastic Journeys, a new podcast that just hit the interwebs this January in 2024. Obviously, you're a fan of cartoons then, but what led you to wanting to start a podcast about them? Because it's one thing to love something, it's another to like dedicate time, recording, editing, all that.
So, yeah, as you mentioned, I'm a big cartoon fan. Like, I'm one of those grown-ups, I will watch cartoons, especially if it's something I'm really interested in, new and old. I'll go back and rewatch ones that I really enjoy, and new stuff that comes out. If I'm really into it, I get into it. Like Steven Universe is one cartoon that like really silly looking, and I happened to watch it with the kid when he was young, and then we didn't really watch it more, and I've seen a bunch of people talking about it. It's like, oh, well, maybe I'll check it out. And I got hooked and watched like all of it. Every single thing was out there and became a big fan. So that's kind of my thing with cartoons. And once I started doing podcasts and being on the Bracket Review show and doing season to season, I was like, it'd be kind of fun to maybe start my own. It's like, what subject would I pick? And I was like, how cool would it be to talk to people about the cartoon style I like and enjoy? And that's kind of how that started. And I won't lie, it's been a lot more work than I thought, because you have this idea of like, I'm just gonna watch cartoons and then I'll jump on and me and people will talk about it and I'll record it and put it out there, and you're like, it's gonna be so much fun. And it's still lots of fun, but it's a lot more work than I thought. I'm like, oh, I have to schedule things and plan things and spend time doing things, and this is work, but it's fun work, and I really, really have enjoyed it. And we're getting some pretty good feedback so far, but we're still new. We just put out our 3rd episode last Saturday, and that was Ferngully, the Last Rainforest. And then not this Saturday, but the next Saturday, we are doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the old school 80s one.
Well, let me tell you, I grew up with a brother obsessed with Ninja Turtles, so much so he wanted his favorite animal as well. He wanted to grow up and be a turtle, not a Ninja Turtle, just a turtle. And then I ended up marrying a guy who is as obsessed with Ninja Turtles. So I know so much about Ninja Turtles without like being like a super fan. And I think, did you like the new movie?
I didn't. I'm gonna give it another try. Because apparently it was, what, I'm gonna be real. What happened is this. I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, cool. It's Ninja Turtles, but in the style of the Spider-Verse movies. And that's not what it is. The graphics are similar, but it's very much its own thing. And so I went in with poor expectations. In 5 minutes, and I was just like, oh, this isn't what I expected. And sometimes when you go in expecting one thing, even if the thing you get's really good, it still just sets you off. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back to it at some point.
Oh my God, I saw it twice in theaters. I watched it as soon as it dropped. It is my favorite iteration of it. Yes, I love it. And my brother, who's super obsessed, he said it's second only to the 1990 movie for him. I cried the first 5 minutes, because my favorite genre is like teen coming of age movies, and the fact that was kind of what they wanted. They wanted to just be kids and regular like teenagers. I was like, them watching Ferris Bueller, I was like done in the theater crying. I loved Paul Rudd as that gecko. Jackie Chan should win an Oscar for freaking Splinter. He made the nipples, the milking. I died. I love that movie.
So I'm watching it this weekend because they're making a cartoon based on it now. They have a new cartoon series coming out. It'll be the 5th iteration of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon.
Is it gonna be Nickelodeon or Paramount Plus?
Yeah, it's going to be on Paramount Plus because they're the ones that own the rights. And yeah, so I'm definitely going to watch that, because my goal eventually, we're going to review every single show in order. So at some point when this is done, we'll go and review the 1993 one, or not 1993, the 2003 one. And then after that, we'll do the 2012 one, which right now is my favorite. And then we'll do the one that they just came out with, I want to say 2018. I'm not quite sure. So yeah, it's definitely going to be something I watch, but now I feel even better about watching it. So I think I'm ready. I think I'm going to watch it tonight.
I just love it. I think just Paul Rudd and like humans, they got to go. Oh my God, I'm obsessed. Like I was so mad. I got a T-shirt. I work at a preschool, like a pre-K class in like a elementary school. That's awesome. And I'll wear it, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, Miss B, Ninja Turtles," and I'm like, "Yeah, who's your favorite?" And they're like, "The red one." I'm like, "I don't even know his name, poser." Like I'm just like, learn the names. Like my brother was like your age when he was like, Leonardo's my boy. Like learn the names, kids. Don't just rock the merch.
Right.
But go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's been so weird rewatching it too, because I grew up with it and I have memories of being young and watching it. But like it came out early enough that I didn't watch like the first few seasons. So like going back and watch it from the beginning and find out how they got the turtle van and how they got the blimp, it's been really neat. And it's a little bit more enjoyable than I thought it was, because like it might not have aged well. I remember it being really silly, but I'm actually greatly enjoying it. And Yeah, I have a lot of fond memories of it too, because I remember when I was really young, one Christmas, Santa brought me every single character. I had all the turtles, I had
Um,
Splinter, I had Casey Jones, and I had Shredder. And they're all laid out, just like so cool. And of course, the weapons that they came with, the little tiny ones, I immediately lost most of them because they're a little tiny piece of plastic. Little 7-year-old
hmm.
me, you know.
Oh
But I
yeah.
remember just playing with those and having such a good time.
Yeah, I got to interview one of like this, I can't remember his name, but he was like the lead director of like Saturday morning cartoons. He was like the first black person to ever get to do that job, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm
Oh, that's
forgetting
so
his name.
cool.
Yeah, but it was really cool to talk to him, and he's being black. I'm like, it's kind of interesting that Ninja Turtles, I mean, they're green, but they're like in the fandom you think of them as black. I think that's another reason I really like the newer movie, because it was the first time I felt they were black. They were like black New York teens. And
Hmm.
so I just was like, it's interesting. Like I see like in my class, all the little black boys, that's who loves Ninja Turtles. And my brother being one, not my husband, he's white, but I just always found it interesting that black young black guys always have like kind of gravitate towards Ninja Turtles. So maybe that's another reason I've always loved them too.
That's so cool. Yeah, the whole phenomenon that happens where you have this cartoon character that isn't necessarily depicted as African American or black, but you kind of know. Like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
we talked about this when we did our episode on Toontastic about Doug and the character Skeeter, and we're like, come on, everybody knows
Mm-hmm.
Skeeter is black, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting how you have those characters that you're just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that one's African American, and that kind of becomes like your favorite character because it's like representation of you.
Yeah, you're like I think Buster, maybe
Hmm.
from Arthur, one of my favorite cartoons. I would still watch it
Oh
to
yeah.
this day if freaking Prime didn't have it behind a paywall. Um, I love Arthur so much. But yeah, it's interesting, like this what is it? We call them the tokens of the shows.
Oh yeah, and
I
Buster
just love them.
definitely felt that way. Yeah, it's really sad that show's over. Like I had even been watching it. Like I just grew up with it and watched so many episodes, and then I was like, "It's still going? Oh, but it's ending." And that was really kind of sad because that's like my childhood. That hurts.
Oh, I loved it, loved it. I was watching it up into my 20s when I had cable. Every day.
Nice.
I was like, I worked from home and I'd be like, oh, time for Arthur. Be like, what a wonderful kind of day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we put it on for my pre-K kids. They didn't care. I was like, these kids uncultured. Um,
Right.
so back to the show. Is there like an era you're trying to stick with when it comes to the show? Because I know you've represented the 90s, you went into the early 2000s with Danny Phantom, but is like 2010ish where you're gonna like cut the cord and be like that's gonna be a little too new, or are you gonna venture into like Steven Universe and stuff like that?
Honestly, I want to do a little bit of everything. Matter of fact, after the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we're gonna do a movie. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do, but then our next show, that's a show, it will be Steven Universe. Because the way I look at it is, everybody, no matter what your age is, usually has at least one cartoon they have fond memories of. My
Mhm.
landlord, who's 60, almost near 70, was like, "Oh yeah, I remember Johnny Quest," and I was like, "Cool. I'd love to do an episode and have you on." And so I want to do a little bit of everything. I want to introduce people to some of the newer stuff because there's some really good animation coming out, like Steven Universe, that hits on some really cool topics.
Mhm.
Um, or things like Adventure Time. It's another good one. Gravity Falls. But I also want to do old school stuff like Thundercats, Transformers. Things of that nature as well.
And like you said, you're not just doing like cartoon shows. You've done Fern Gully, doesn't hold up. And then you're going to do these horror movies. But when are you going to rip the band-aid off and do Disney movies, the cream of the crop of animation?
It's coming. It's coming soon. It might be sooner than you think. Cause I'm not 100% locked in, but I know we're gonna do Sword in the Stone really soon, and I think that might be our first Disney movie that we do. But the Disney movies are definitely gonna happen because they're great, and I
Interesting.
love Disney movies. And we'll probably do some Disney shows too because I want to do Gargoyles, I want to do Gummy Bears. Darkwing Duck is definitely on the tables, and I would love to do original DuckTales and then do the reboot DuckTales at some point as well.
I have to say, Gummy Bears didn't hold up.
Yeah, I don't think it probably will.
I
Well,
would
for
like
me
when
either.
they were dropping Disney Plus. We stayed up till midnight when we were like refreshing. We got on. As the first thing we watched was Gummy Bears. I was like, we have to hear the theme song before we go to bed, and then we watched the next episode the next day. And I was like, yeah, the theme song's where it's at, but the show, hmm.
It happens sometimes like that.
Yeah.
Like when we did the episode on Doug, I was like thank you. I was super excited to watch it because I had such fond memories of that show. And it was kind of tough. Like me and CJ both were like, it's a good show. There's a lot good to it. But you reach this point where you're just kind of like, I'm kind of bored and I still have several episodes to watch. And it's not that it was necessarily bad animation or anything. It's just, it's a little dated and it's a little slow. And it's just like, oh, yeah, okay. Kind of over
Yeah.
it.
My biggest issue with Doug is finding out that he was only supposed to be like 11 when it started, and I'm like so much feelings for an 11-year-old. Like,
Oh my gosh,
wild.
right?
I'm like, what? And he was bald, and that bothered me. Balding 11-year-old. But
Yo.
yeah, I don't know if I have gone back and watched like Rugrats, and I do think that is a amazingly done show. Just how they do the world from a baby's perspective and how it's just really imaginative. And I'm like, oh, this is like actually really cool. You don't think about that when you're a kid. You just think it's fun, but like watching it back's been pretty. Like I did watch a couple episodes back, and I was like, this is actually really good. I mean,
Oh yeah, I love the Rugrats.
So you do that show with CJ, which we mentioned, and you've joined him on season to season. You weren't an original member of that podcast though. So how did it come about of you like jumping ship and joining the crew?
So when CJ first approached me about doing podcasts, he knew Dre was wanting to do season to season again. And he thought I'd be really good for it. And so he's like, but the way this works is they gotta get to know you, so you gotta kind of audition. And so they had me come on the Bracket Review show, and I did well enough that DeAndre was, hey, you can come back. And then after 4 or 5 times being guest on that show, they were like, okay, you know what? We want to officially invite you to come on and do season to season with us.
Well, I'm glad it worked out. If I can catch it, I do. Something you guys like to record when I'm starting my lunch hour or usually ending my lunch hour on Friday. So sometimes I can't comment along, but I do enjoy watching the bracket reviews and the season to seasons when I can. You guys are a good foursome. I like to say you guys look like the cast of Martin, 3 black guys and a white guy.
It was great, and we definitely do appreciate when you and the other network members join in. Like your comments today, there were some good ones, and yeah, it's a blast. It's just getting together with friends, having a good time, joking around and talking, and I enjoy it so much, and it's so different because I've had people in the past like, oh, you should do radio or YouTube, and you're really informative, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I don't think I'm that good at it. But when I got the offer, I said, well, might as well try it out and see how it goes. And I enjoyed it. I was like, worst case scenario, I don't enjoy it and I do one episode, I'm like, it's not for me. But so far it's been great, and then I've been able to have the really cool opportunity to come on and guest on shows like yours today and some of the other shows, and always have a fun time doing that as well.
Yeah, it's fun to have you on the what do we do? The drafts as well. It's always nice to have someone new on those because you get like a new perspective and new picks. Sometimes I can know what people are going to pick on the network, and I'm like, I like new blood in the water.
Yeah, though not everybody's too happy about next week's because apparently most of you guys don't like Star Trek, and I didn't realize that.
I'm also
but we're gonna
arguing
have fun.
Everybody because they're like, well, universe is just, it could be one movie they built it. I was like, no, if he is talking Star Trek, he is talking from the nerd realm of universes like Marvel, DC, Walking Dead, things that have been built out. Respect it. I'm getting so mad at not respecting what a universe is.
Well, and for me, the whole thing was like, you could pick anybody. It could be a cartoon character. It could be somebody from a TV show. The only thing you can't do is pick a Star Trek character, just to make it interesting. Because I'm like, like one person was like, oh yeah, your captain could be Optimus Prime. I'm like, there you go. That's a great idea, So I'm really curious, especially with them not being fans of Star Trek, to see
Mhm.
the crews that people come up with, because I think it's going to be very, very entertaining.
I think it will. It always is. But by the time this episode comes out, we will have done the Star Trek draft, and I believe Sons of Anarchy on season will have dropped. But what other shows are you guys going to be doing on that show?
So after Sons of Anarchy, I believe the next show we are doing is This Is Us.
Oh,
Yeah, and so
ooh,
that's going to be
okay.
interesting. I don't know how long it's going to take us to make it through that show because basically we don't have a set date where we drop our episodes. Instead, we give
Mhm.
everybody time to watch it, and when all four of us have watched the entirety of a show, we'll jump on. We did make the caveat that if a show's really long, like we did with Big Bang Theory, who has 12 seasons, we did two
Mhm.
parts. We made through season 6, recorded, and then we did 7 through 12, and then it did another one. But Sons of Anarchy, we're almost done with that. That's why that one's coming out soon. And then we're gonna do This Is Us, and I was like, that one's gonna be tough because that's a show that I love, and it's a show that call it a tissue show because I don't think there's a single episode
Mhm.
where I didn't need tissue. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna binge watch this show, but we'll see.
Oh, it's masochistic to watch it again. I watched it live, and I don't know if it's a show I'll ever try to rewatch just because that reason. It was just a lot the
Oh,
first time.
it was, but it was great because I
Yeah.
really like the show Parenthood. Uh,
High five. Yes, my old roommate will be so
yeah.
happy to hear. Nobody
Oh,
gives love to that show.
oh, such a great show, and that show
Obsessed.
walked so This Is Us could
Yes.
run. And it
Thank
was great because
you.
when that show, I had a whole, I was like, well, what am I gonna watch now? And then This Is Us came out, and I was like, oh, it's my new show.
The children of Lorelai Gilmore, like her
Mm.
son and daughter, they were at a show. I used to live in Los Angeles, and they were at something, and I was like, oh my god, because the girl I've been obsessed with for a long time, and I was like, she was in Perks of Being a Wallflower, which is one of my favorite movies. And I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like just seeing a parenthood out in the wild. So exciting. But yes, thank you for saying it walk so this could run. A lot of people, it was like a show that was popular enough. It lasted, but I feel like a lot of people kind of missed it though.
Yeah, it was in a weird age because it was back in that time frame where streaming wasn't really
Mm-hmm.
big. And so, like, it was just week to week TV, and a lot of people liked it. But I feel like as we went into streaming and we got assaulted with so many good TV shows out there, people
Mm-hmm.
just they kind of forgot about it. And I try and tell people often, I'm like, dude, you gotta watch it. It's such a good show.
Oh,
It has a great cast, like Craig T.
heavy hitter.
Nelson. Oh
Yes,
my
coach.
gosh. And then speaking of crushes, Lauren Graham. Oh my goodness.
I liked
Wow, that's
her.
definitely another crush for me.
Mine was the Adam Bergman and Peter
Oh yeah.
Krause. I have a thing for TV dads. My old roommate would be like, seriously, another one? I'd be like, yes. Another TV
Hey,
dad on the list.
nothing wrong with that.
So before we talk about what's coming up on Toontastic Journeys, I do want to do a quick speed round about cartoons.
All right.
So this one's probably a hard one. Maybe, I don't know. You seem like a list maker, but who is your favorite animated character?
Ooh, that is a hard one. Boy, wow. Honestly, right now, my favorite anime character of all time would have to be Steven Universe.
Hmm.
And that's not like early Steven Universe, but Steven Universe at the end of Steven Universe Future and the Steven Universe movie, where he's just greatly matured and came into being and accepted kind of his destiny of who he is. I'm a big sucker also for coming of age stories, and that whole entire series, including the sequel and the movie, are very much a coming of age story with Steven, and just watching him grow from being this kind of silly, naive kid with a big heart to going through some tribulations and trials and coming out of it with a big heart still, but having matured and being able to help people and also help himself and to help accept the help from others was just a really great joy to watch.
I watched the first season, but it was one of those, it was a job. Like I was writing reviews of it, so I didn't keep up once the job ended,
Well,
sort of thing.
and to be honest with you, it is a very silly show. in the first 2 seasons. It's not till like the third season where some serious stuff starts happening, and then you get into like the serialized kind of format of storytelling where like you're like, oh, that's getting into some big topics. Like they're dealing with depression and like gender equality and other things of that nature that are like not dumbed down for kids, but talked to on the same level where it's understandable. But the first season is very silly. I mean, each episode's only like 11 minutes long, and a lot of them are just kind of silly kiddie things. And so I definitely understand, especially if you had to watch it for work.
Yeah.
Why you struggle with that.
Yeah, it was. I was like, that's okay. It's cute. So next one is your favorite cartoon sidekick.
You know, I'd have to go with Launchpad McQuack.
That's a good one.
Because he's such a loyal guy, and he's always with it. Like, yeah, come on, let's do this thing. Even though he's always crashing, you know, he never, ever has a crash landing that they can't walk away from. And I mean, he was loyal not through just one show, but 2 shows, you know, because he was loyal all the way through DuckTales, and then he was loyal with Darkwing Duck when he was on that show being his partner. So I gotta go with Launchpad.
All right, that's a good one. And then your favorite animated world.
Boy, I got a lot of them. But if I could pick one world to live in and enjoy, I'm gonna go with Pokemon.
Oh,
yeah,
exciting.
It would be. I would love to just like live in that world and just be on the road, catching Pokemon, trying to catch them all, and fighting gym leaders and trying to become a champion.
And what about the best like theme song for a cartoon show?
Ooh, there's so many out there that I love. Oh man. You know, even though I found the show kind of outdated, Doug has, mind you, talking Nickelodeon's Doug, not Disney's Doug, but Doug has a top tier theme songs. They got this whole beatbox thing going that's just funky and different from a lot of shows.
Yeah, it's like
yeah,
it goes off at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, Doug had really great music. And yeah, when we refer to Doug, no one's ever referring to Disney Doug.
Right.
We kind of think Doug died after it left. I mean, I watched it on Disney Plus, the first episode, and they were like, "Oh, Connie was away at camp, and they made her skinny," and I was like, "What the hell is this? This is so problematic. I can't." I was like, I can't.
They changed a lot because they made Connie skinny, and then they made Roger rich. And
yeah,
very different show.
So the next one is, you love cartoons, but is there one where you're like, I don't know why this is popular? Like a questionable one?
There's quite a few of them. I don't get it. It's just not for me. You know, I'm trying to think of one in particular. A lot of like the younger kiddie shows nowadays that kids are into. What's the one? It's the little boy with the bald head, Calio.
Oh, Caillou.
Caillou. Yeah. Like, I don't get that show. Like, the kid kind of seems really annoying, and I get that I'm definitely not its target audience. But that one and then Peppa Pig, I'm just like, you know, give me Doc McStuffins. I'll watch that. Like, it's silly, but like that show has legs. But that I can't get with it.
Yeah, Peppa Pig, my nephew, that was kind of his era of Nickelodeon, and he would be like, "I want to get petrol," and we're like, "Why is he talking like that?" It's because of the little pig. But now the kids love Bluey is all the rage.
Well, and that one I get because Bluey is a good show. Like I like many people, once people start talking about it, I start watching. I was like, okay, this show's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's like the only thing like we put on in the pre-K, like after like when they're waiting to get picked up, that they're quiet for. Like Bluey has like a power for the children, so respect to him for that because it quiets them. And our last one is, what decade do you think had the best era of cartoons so far?
1990s.
Thank you.
That's my era I grew up in. I mean, we had some amazing cartoons. Transformers Beast Wars, you know, was one off the top of my head I can think of that I just watch religiously. Like, I could not wait to watch that. It's a good decade, not just for cartoons, because it's the decade the Power Rangers started in, which, is another reason to love the 90s.
And what is coming up on Toontastic Journeys?
So, coming up, not only do we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but then we will be doing The Sword and the Stone. And then after that, we will be doing Steven Universe. We'll do the show and then we'll do the movie. And then after that, it's going to be very exciting because we will then begin into the road of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
And lastly, can you remind people where they can find you and your shows online?
Yeah, so you can find us on Spotify and anywhere else that podcasts can be listened to, whether it's Apple or Google or many of the other platforms there. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under Toontastic Journeys Podcast. And so look us up and check us out.
Well, Joshua, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today about not only your CW crush, but all things cartoons. And everyone, you can find all of Joshua's information below. And until next time, as always, keep crushing it.
Crushgasm is part of the I Did Not Make These Rankings podcast network, along with some other pretty cool shows, including An Evening at the Movies, Crime Rewind, Literature Reapers, Love is Black, Masturbators, Men Are the Prize, Season to Season, The Sip List, and Toontastic Journeys. You can go to idnmtrpodcastnetwork.com to find not only Crushgasm, but all of the aforementioned really cool podcasts. Alrighty.